Now, from the news team that's covering the Carolinas, this is Channel 9 Eyewitness News Saturday morning.
We're tracking Tropical Storm Florence. Overnight, fierce wind and driving rain.
We didn't anticipate it to be as bad as it was.
Bringing down trees and power lines, leaving more than 750,000 people in the dark.
Do not go out in this storm.
The storm now blamed for at least 5 deaths as it descends on Charlotte.
Channel 9 has multiple crews covering this major event from the North and South Carolina coasts and here in the Charlotte area, where we are just beginning to see the outer bands extend into the metro area, with our team of meteorologists tracking the storm's progress and the impact. Good morning, I'm Allison Lottis.
And I'm John Paul. We've got a lot to talk about this morning. Let's get straight over to meteorologist Keith Monday as these bands are showing up on our local radar.
Right, they're starting to work their way in. Let me get you reset. If you're just waking up, we're curious what the storm is doing. It's still tropical storm, 50-mile-per-hour winds. That's kind of the insignificant part of this. That wind speed doesn't matter. We're still going to get the worst of the storm coming in today. Here's the interesting point, though. It's moving only at 5 miles per hour. The forward speed has not sped up. It's barely going to inch through the south side of our area as a depression by early tomorrow morning, and then start to pick up speed in through the mountains by tomorrow afternoon. So by then, it will start to accelerate and move out, but it's just crawling its way toward us, about 142 miles to the center. But look at all this heavy rain. Look how that is coming right our direction. We've already seen a few of the heavier rain bands working in on live early warning Doppler 9, especially up here to the north. We already have a flood advisory in effect for parts of Stanley and Anson and Richmond counties off to the east. Some of that heavier rain band working in through western and northern Stanley County, just east of Mount Pleasant up to New London. Those heavy downpours are going to put down a good burst of rain with some stronger wind gusts along with it, up to 45 miles per hour. We've seen from reports of winds about 40 miles an hour in South Charlotte as well. So those winds are going to keep gusting up. Coming up, we'll talk more about the inches and inches of rain that we expect out of this, as some serious flooding is going to be a very big concern. Allison.
This morning, state and federal officials will continue monitoring the impacts of the storm very closely. We are expecting an update from FEMA around 9:15, and Governor Cooper will have a press conference scheduled for 11 o'clock. Right now, North Carolina is reporting more than 780,000 power outages statewide. Across the area, Mecklenburg County has 3,300 without power, and that number has fluctuated overnight. We've seen it as high as 5,500, so it's just an ongoing battle to try to get the lights back on. Richmond County, very hard hit, nearly 12,000 people in the dark. Anson County is also in the red as well. Outages are rising in Gaston and Union counties, and in South Carolina, Chesterfield County has been hard hit. Chester, Lancaster, and York all now feeling the effects. This storm is still inching its way here. We're waiting for the brunt of it. It hasn't reached us yet, but it's already causing damage across the Charlotte area.
Yeah, it's just crawling toward us. Eyewitness News reporter Deshaun Brown live for us in southeast Charlotte right now, where Nations Ford Road is shut down now in both directions. Deshaun.
Well, John Paul, it's actually down to one lane at this point. They are allowing southbound traffic through this area, but I'll show you why it is partially shut down. If you can see where the tree is off here to your right, that has now fallen onto a power line, and this is drooping over a portion of Nations Ford Road. There are also 2 CMPD cruisers blocking off the northbound lane. They do want to make sure that if any large trucks come through, that they're able to redirect them, because they will not be able to get under this line. So again, there is one lane that's open, that's the southbound lane, but the issue here is a tree that has fallen onto a power line. At this point, this is in the Yorktown area, so there are a few homes nearby. I can see a lot of lights that are still on, so it doesn't look like a complete blackout, but again, this is an area of concern with the tree on this line. We will continue to monitor this to see if this has any other impact, but right now there is at least one lane open to traffic. I'll send it back to you in the studio.
All right, Deshaun live for us this morning. She's going to get to another area that's experiencing issues in just a few minutes. Our team coverage continues, though, this morning along the South Carolina coast.
Eyewitness News reporter Dave Faraday is live in North Myrtle Beach this morning. He's been getting pounded by the wind and the rain.
Yeah, and the rain is picking up again. We had a little bit break earlier, but it's blowing like sideways right now because we're getting gusts probably in the neighborhood of 40, maybe 45 miles per hour at times. I got a chance to talk with several police officers and firefighters up in the North Myrtle Beach area. They're telling me so far, fortunately, we have not had that much damage. I did see a little bit when I drove around this morning. I don't know if you can see this video right here, but there were some trees down. There was some damage around some of the hotels, and some of the awnings were ripped off. But I haven't seen any like roof damage or anything like that. We did see some flooding though along North Ocean Boulevard, and that's because we have these onshore winds right now. That's forcing some of the water from the ocean back across the roadways up there. And I'm back here live right now. I checked a short time ago. This area of Myrtle Beach has got about 6 inches of rain. This area is also without power from all the trees down. I'm going to step up here real quick. We do have lights right here. It's not from power from the hotel, but from a generator that my photographer set up. I'm going to just put the mic out. You can actually hear it running here. He's got it set up over there. Another thing he's done, he's getting hit with the wind just like I am. He's put out sandbags around, and you can see him holding down the big lights here and sandbags around the door leading to the hotel because of concern of water rushing in later this morning. Reporting live from North Myrtle Beach, I'm Dave Faraday, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
Ingenuity there, Dave.
Had to come prepared.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Dangerous conditions from Florence have made it difficult to save people who've been trapped in their homes.
Eyewitness News anchor Kristen Lee is in our breaking news center with how rescue missions are going.
Dangerous work and no shortage of people who need saved. First responders came to the rescue after a tree fell on a man's house and trapped him. Take a look at this video. The tree fell down on the house in North Raleigh last night. The man was rescued by dozens of firefighters on scene. He was in bed when the tree crashed over his room, leaving him pinned. A woman, visibly shaken up, was also guided to safety. You can see the tree nearly covered the roof of the home. We're relieved to report everyone in that house is okay. Volunteers from across the country are helping victims in the Carolinas. Look at this video. It's a rescue mission in Riverbend. New York City's urban search and rescue team carried a woman to safety in a boat after she was trapped in a home in high waters. Rain is pouring down, and look at that water level. It's waist deep on the rescuer pulling the boat to a safer place. Some families are looking to the U.S. National Guard for help. This video shows a rescue in New Bern, a guard holding a baby while the adults take all they can in their arms. They also have bags of stuff on their backs. We want to show you another rescue just a moment, a water rescue in Riverbend. Here it is. Volunteers are guiding a family and their pet to safety. Many families are leaving their homes with no idea what they'll see when they get back. Floodwaters are only expected to rise in communities across the Carolinas in coming days.
We are just truly seeing the reasons why so many people were told to evacuate the coast.
Exactly.
So dangerous there. And we do want to show you what's happening with different resources we have to see live pictures.
Yeah, when we can get the live pictures, we're going to bring them to you. This is a live look at Wrightsville Beach, and you can see the rain go past the lens there. And it just shows you the power of this storm, because this time yesterday we were talking about it hitting. It is still there, just inching along the coast. And we also have some video we want to show you of the winds and the strength just a few miles from Wrightsville Beach. Listen to this. That's how strong it is. It helps you understand just how ferocious Florence has been as she came ashore. Police blocked off flooded roads. You can see they've got a traffic light out. There's probably not many that are even working at this hour along the coast. It was just swaying in those strong winds, and the first responders out there dealing with it all. Now, this is probably the worst that we've heard. Winds caused a tree to topple onto a home in Wilmington, and you can see what happened next. It killed a mother and her baby, and this tragedy moved the firefighters who responded to the home. They paused, they knelt, they were praying. They just took this to heart here. The falling tree also hurt that woman's husband.
Such a devastating story to report this morning. And as we've told you earlier, that nearly 12,000 people in Richmond County are waking up this morning and they don't have any power as strong winds brought down trees across the county. Take a look at this new video. A massive tree took down multiple power lines in the Hamlet area last night. This tree fell along Bowersfield Street and it knocked out power to 3,000 people in the area. We spoke to a neighbor who wasn't surprised when he heard that tree come crashing down.
I knew that tree was coming down eventually. We knew it was rotted all the way through the middle.
Crews shut down the street to make repairs. There's no word on when the power is expected to be restored in that area.
Charlotte Douglas is taking action so fewer flights will be disrupted. The airport will not close, but operations are limited. This morning, about 200 cancellations so far. Take a look at these pictures here. It is a ghost town. This is just how empty the airport is. Terminals that are usually packed with people, especially at this hour, they're deserted. There are rows and rows of empty seats there in the terminals. While airport officials say they're ready for the storm, they are monitoring wind speeds. Of course, that's going to be a big problem. Airport officials say if we get sustained winds of 35 miles per hour, 3 of the 4 runways will likely have to close. All flights will then have to use just one runway because it travels in the opposite wind direction. All right, live look we want to show you now at Little River, South Carolina. Over the next hour, we'll be getting some daylight. This is just north of Myrtle Beach, and we'll get that daylight. It'll give us a better idea. You can hear just how strong the wind still is some 24 hours almost after landfall, Keith.
Seeing this thing spreading in this morning. I got here about 1 o'clock this morning to relieve John and Steve from last night. And I've been watching this line of rain inch its way in. It's not moving that fast. And the rain itself is moving southwest. The line is starting to drift westward towards Charlotte. So rain's filling in. The heaviest is still kind of slowly working its way through Cabarrus County and in down toward Mint Hill. That rain is just going to keep adding up and up and up throughout the day. This is still the very beginning. I'd say 6 to 8 inches is a good total for just about everybody in the viewing area, but there will be spots in Charlotte and areas east, especially east, that could be 10 inches or more of rain. That is going to cause significant amounts of flooding and could be long-lasting flooding that could stick around. Coming up in a few minutes, we'll be back with meteorologist Jacqueline Shear. She'll be talking about how, okay, it's the wind, the rain, yes, but there will also be possible brief tornado threat coming in today as well. John?
All right, Keith, 6:12 right now. You're going to want to keep it right here to Channel 9. We have a lot more information to come.
It's an all-hands-on-deck situation for us, and our team coverage continues throughout the morning with more reports.
Florence is continuing to hammer the damaged communities here along the coast. I'm Mark Barber, live in the North Topsail Beach area, where we are monitoring flooding concerns.
I'm Glenn Counts on Providence Road West. Down power lines and people taking chances. That story's next.
Right now at 6:15, and our team coverage continues back out on the coast with Eyewitness News reporter Mark Barber.
He is live for us in North Topsail Beach, one of the areas that received significant damage. Just yesterday, he was showing us parts of gas stations ripped apart. Mark, you got there before the storm hit on Thursday night. Tell us what you're seeing there this morning.
Well, Allison, the big transformation is how much extra water we are now getting because of the rain that continues to pour. We've lost all power here. It's extremely dark, so I grabbed the flashlight this morning to show you this parking lot. When we were here just yesterday, there was just a couple centimeters of rain standing in this parking lot. This morning, we've got 6 inches here. It is really starting to pour, and it is really starting to stand and accumulate in these areas. Now we're gonna flip around the flashlight in this direction because this is one of those gas station canopies that came down. Several of those canopies came down in this area. This one here was actually tossed about 50 yards before it finally came to rest right here up against an ATM. This is sort of what we're seeing here with the damage. There's so much debris that this storm is picking up and throwing around. Now this morning, we have been seeing torrential downpours. You can still see the rain coming down here, but it's really been hit and miss with the intensity. Just a couple minutes ago, it was so crazy you could barely stand in front of the truck here or even talk in the wind. It was just that crazy. So we are exhausted. Florence here is relentless. The big concern, of course, is the flooding. these coastal communities are expecting to see more than 20 inches of rain by the time this is all said and done. So the rivers here, they look much more like the ocean. The concern is what will happen to the damaged communities here that need to rebuild when they've got to wait for all the water to recede first. Guys.
All right, Mark, thank you so much. And thankfully, he's got that flashlight to try to navigate through that parking lot that's also flooded. But he was showing us all of that debris everywhere. A really dangerous situation. You have no idea what you could be coming across.
And that's why they're asking people to stay off the roads. Even here in Mecklenburg County, and thousands of people without power this morning in Mecklenburg County as the strong winds have brought down a lot of different trees out there.
And Eyewitness News reporter Glenn Counts continues our team coverage now live along Providence Road West in the Valentine area, where crews have a road they've closed overnight. Glenn.
Yeah, Allison, I guess first of all, let me give you a little update on the weather conditions that we're seeing. We are starting, it had been relatively calm here. We're starting to see a little bit more rain. Also, we had a big gust of wind just a few minutes ago. Now, speaking of those power lines, as you can see here behind me, they're twisted like loops of spaghetti. The reason for that is down the road there at Marvin, you got a power pole that's snapped in two, and it looks like it's just because of the wind, not because of any kind of tree or anything like that that hit it. And you know, we are exercising caution and care, which is what you should do if you come across a power line. You got to always assume it's hot, assume it's live, and keep your distance. But not everybody is following that advice. As a matter of fact, I would say a while ago we saw someone who approached that intersection there and drove through, or basically between the two power lines. As you can see, there's a power line that's running above. There's also one that's laying on the street, and they drove through that, which not very wise, because you got to always assume that those power lines are hot and that they can hurt you. Reporting live from Providence Road West, Glenn Counts, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
All right, Glenn, 619, just in from Richmond County, more than 12,000 people without power. Boyd Lake Road shut down in both directions. This is near Dobbin Heights, and that's because a tree and power lines are down in that area.
We are going to be sharing that news with you repeatedly this morning. And meteorologist Keith Monday is over in Severe Weather Center 9, tracking the outer bands reaching Charlotte now. And Keith, the down power lines and the trees we're seeing already just from the very beginning of this storm.
Exactly, and that's why I'm concerned that as the morning goes on here, across the entire viewing area, and especially as the day goes on, we're likely going to have hundreds of these reports of trees down, possibly power outages all coming back in as that first wave of rain is really taking over all of Stanley County now, from Albemarle up 52 through New London, Meisenheimer, Mount Pleasant southward and crossing over 601 in southern and eastern Cabarrus County. Let's dig into this a little further here. It's all the way down into Mint Hill across Highway 27 here as you head out of Mecklenburg County, out of Mint Hill in through southern Cabarrus all the way over toward Locust. That's where some of the heaviest rain is, and within that, as we look at the little sliver of wind that's with this, 49-mile-per-hour winds, that is going to be a little bit above the elevation of the ground because the radar beam is here and it starts to lift as you go away from it. But as that wind comes down with that rain, now it's jumped to 51. So that could pull down winds gusting that strong. And as the ground becomes more saturated, that could lead to more problems. The rain is very steady through Mint Hill now, down into Matthews, even to the east here as you head down through Polkton, over toward Wadesboro, Marshville. And this is just going to keep slowly filling in. I know areas west of Charlotte haven't seen anything yet, but you will as the day goes on. Later this morning, the rain just keeps on spreading on through. And look how the intensity picks up. Here's 3 o'clock. Widespread bands of heavy rain will come into the area with those strong winds, and into this evening, it's basically on for everybody and will not let up until we head into the day tomorrow. So heavy rain will continue to cause flooding concerns to grow. Strong winds will cause more power outages. The other thing we have to talk about, and this is what meteorologist Jacqueline Shear is focusing on, it's not just those two main things. There could still be a few brief tornadoes coming in as well. Jack?
Yeah, you know what, Keith, up until now, we've been pretty fortunate with the number of tornadoes that have spun up from this storm, but that doesn't mean we're in the clear by any means. And in fact, there is this tornado watch in effect for all of these counties shaded in yellow there, so much of the eastern part of the state. And as we move through the next few hours, that line will likely creep all the way into Charlotte. We'll be tracking those watches and warnings as we move through. And here's why. Because we're seeing, first off, that instability moving into our area, we're also seeing friction from the wind shear. That means the difference in the wind speeds between this storm that's moving in and what was there before, and that friction can cause those spin-up tornadoes. Now, these are very fast tornadoes. They pop up very quickly. They don't last very long, but of course, they can have some really big impacts, Keith.
And those impacts are going to be felt through, especially this afternoon and tonight, through the day tomorrow. Sunday into Monday, we start to ease down with this. And thankfully, into next week, we have a fairly quiet stretch of weather coming our way. So that is some good news out of this after we get past this, because it's going to take a long time for the water that we're going to get the next couple of days to recede. And we'll touch more on this coming up in the next half hour. It's not going to be just the streams, the creeks, the nuisance stuff on the roads. River flooding is already a concern. They have new forecasts that have just come out this morning. I want to show you here in a moment how they're expecting major flooding on a lot of the rivers in our area.
And I think what really drives home that point is, and this is the beginning outer bands, and we've seen so many issues already.
Yeah, it's an exhausting storm.
All right,
Thanks, Keith. As the creeks begin to rise in the Charlotte area, one group is making sure some of our most vulnerable neighbors will be safe. Volunteers with the local Meals on Wheels nonprofit are going the extra mile to help their senior clients during the storm.
Since we may not be able to get back to them on Monday, we are just not sure, we've asked them to let us know if there's anything that concerns them.
I prefer to be at home, but you know, sometimes you can't do everything you prefer. You have to do what's best for you.
Volunteers will call an emergency contact for their clients and get other help as needed. It's important that everyone stays safe, but we have heard of families in the Carolinas afraid of going to shelters because of their immigration status. ICE says in consideration of these circumstances, there will be no immigration enforcement initiatives associated with evacuations or sheltering related to Florence, except in the event of a serious public safety threat.
New this morning at 6:23. Look at this here. That is an alligator. It was spotted walking across a neighborhood street as rain moved into Horry County. You believe this? You see the gator goes right down into that nearby ditch. So just another thing that people have to kind of worry about on the coast. In New Bern, a reporter from our sister station went above and beyond. You see what they're doing right there, rescuing a dog during the storm. You can see she just picked it up, carried the dog through the flood waters. Reporter Julie Wilson says she saw the owner struggling, so she just stepped in to help out. A day after making landfall, Hurricane Florence continues to batter the Carolinas. We're seeing strong winds, heavy rain. Hundreds of rescues have been needed so far.
It's really incredible. 783,000 people are now without power in North Carolina this morning. And ABC's Natalie Brunell has the latest from Wilmington.
More than a day of relentless rain. Hurricane Florence soaking the Carolinas, bringing with her an unstoppable torrent of water. In New Bern, North Carolina, a 10-foot storm surge. Watch as a reporter from our local affiliate WTVD interrupts her live stream to save a dog from the flooding. Homes overwhelmed, prompting frantic rescues into the night.
People all night long have been in attics and roofs asking for help.
At this home in Wilmington Friday, a mother and 8-month-old baby losing their lives when a massive tree fell on their home. The first responders huddling in prayer.
These firefighters were out here in the height of this storm working this rescue basically, and very, very difficult.
The full fury of Florence now extending far beyond the coast.
Look at this. Look how high this is now. It's twice as deep as it was 10 minutes ago.
Water pushing in, nearly 1 million homes without power.
If you're in the storm's path, take shelter and stay there.
As floodwaters rise, the monster storm continues to churn. And for so many, it was a long, wet, and sleepless night. With every inch of rain, the rivers continue to rise, and officials are expecting historic flooding over the coming week. In Wilmington, North Carolina, Natalie Brunell, ABC News.
And we've learned overnight that President Trump is going to travel to the Carolinas to see the aftermath of Florence.
Now you can see the president here. He's in a briefing about Florence. This was yesterday. The White House says the president will come to the Carolinas in the first part of the week when he won't disrupt recovery or rescue efforts. The president ordered more than 1,000 FEMA employees to the Carolinas and Virginia At least 2,800 others from federal agencies like the CDC and the Pentagon.
We have what we need staged throughout the area, both as far as manpower and teams, as well as commodities, resources, communications. We've also heavily engaged with our partners at the private sector.
Now, FEMA officials say they're focusing on search and rescue missions, as well as getting the roads back open. Community coming together new this hour. The way neighbors put together this sandbagging operation to protect their town from the rising waters.
Strong winds along the Carolina coast. I'll show you some of the damage and the flooding in the area in a live report.
Now, Channel 9 Eyewitness News, Saturday morning.
We're tracking Tropical Storm Florence, the deadly storm bringing catastrophic flooding.
In a matter of seconds, my house was flooded.
And strong winds.
Rain and that flooding equals danger.
Our team of meteorologists is tracking this storm.
This is going to be a very trying period.
Preparing you for the weekend and pinpointing when the worst of the storm will move into Charlotte. Good morning, I'm Allison Lottis. We have a team of live reporters bringing you reports from the coast. This is a look from North Myrtle Beach, where our crew has cameras and set up, and the light, look at that, moving in the wind. They've had to put sandbags down just to try to hold it in place. And now look at this image from North Topsail Beach, where our reporter has told us they have lost power. They're using flashlights to navigate this flooded parking lot, and there's debris from parts of a gas station canopy that is blown off into the parking lot. Even though Florence is no longer a hurricane, look at how massive this storm system is. So large and powerful, it is expected to be with us for days.
Thanks for joining us this morning. I'm in the Severe Weather Center 9 with meteorologist Keith Money. Now, Keith, you've been in, for hours now, and you've been watching this on the radar. The hardest hit areas, they're just starting to see these outer bands.
And we're just beginning with this, and the areas that were just being hard hit this time yesterday morning are still getting hit that hard. The storm has barely moved from its location where it made landfall early yesterday morning. It was 7:15 when the storm made landfall just to the east of Wilmington at Wrightsville Beach. It's only moved to here. That's incredible. This thing is only moving at 5 miles per hour. This is something we don't very rarely see with tropical systems. They typically, well, first of all, move from south to north along the coastline. This one's moving straight east to west pretty much, and slowly taking all this rain here and shoving it toward our area at a very slow, almost a painfully slow pace, because we know it's coming, and it's just slowly starting to kick up here on the east side of Charlotte. Some of the heaviest rains between Concord down Highway 601 as you head down into Mint Hill there into eastern Mecklenburg County, down into Matthews. We've already seen some very steady rains east, and almost preemptively we've seen these flood advisories issued in our far eastern counties. These will spread west as more of the rain fills in. For now, it only goes till 7:30. That will get extended easily for a good chunk of the rest of the day. Heaviest rain I've been watching, a live early warning Doppler 9 over the last hours from Mount Pleasant to Mint Hill, and then a little stripe of very intense rain. Also at times has some stronger wind, not consistently with it, but there are some winds up to about 44 miles per hour near Mount Pleasant there in eastern Cabarrus County. A little bit lighter down through Mint Hill for now. Well, there's the update that just came in. You can see that's jumped now to around 25 to 30. So we are going to see these winds gusting 40 plus as we head through the day today. Coming up, we'll talk more about this wind and how we are forecasting the likelihood of even more power outages coming our way through the day.
Our team coverage continues now with Eyewitness News reporter Dave Faraday.
And he is live at North Myrtle Beach. That's where the conditions have quickly deteriorated. Dave?
Allison, we just checked WSOC interactive radar. I can tell you that the center of the storm has moved just south of our location here in Myrtle Beach. You can really see it from the winds. Remember yesterday the winds were heading offshore. If you look behind me, you can see in these trees right here, we're getting a stiff breeze coming inshore. I would say we're getting winds in the neighborhood of 40, maybe 45 miles per hour sustained right now. Early this morning, I got a chance to go out and take a look at any of the damage. You can see the wind actually blowing that rain across the headlights of my car. We got down on Ocean Boulevard in North Myrtle Beach, where we did see some flooding this morning, but it wasn't widespread. It was just like in a narrow area of like 3 or 4 blocks, but it did get up underneath some of the hotels, did flood a pickup truck down there this morning. That's because of that onshore wind that we're getting is causing some of the storm surge to come up over Ocean Boulevard. The concern is going to be later this morning when we get another high tide here. We're going to head back out and check those conditions. Again, the wind very strong. Power outages across the Grand Strand right now, including at our hotel here in Myrtle Beach. Reporting live from Myrtle Beach, I'm Dave Verity. Now back to you.
All right, Dave, yeah, you can see how bad it is getting, and they have not caught a break in the last 24 hours. It is 6:34. We're following some breaking news in southwest Charlotte where more downed trees have taken out power lines.
Right now, the outbound South Tryon is closed, but the inbound lanes are open. Eyewitness News reporter Deshaun Brown is live at the scene. And Deshaun, Duke Energy crews are there right now?
Allison, they just left the scene in the last 10 minutes or so. I'll show you why they were here. There is a power line that is slightly leaning directly in front of this CMPD cruiser. I spoke with the crew member from Duke Energy who was here. He told me this has not caused an outage yet, but certainly a concern with that power line leaning the way that it is. And of course, right now it is because of the wind. We actually just left another area in South Charlotte a few minutes ago off of Nations Ford Road where a tree actually fell onto the power line and was drooping into the street. So this has been an issue in several places this morning. Again, right now this is not causing an outage, but certainly a concern with it already leading the way that it is. Reporting live in southwest Charlotte, Deshaun Brown, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
And we can see the winds even picking up from her live shot. Dozens with the Charlotte Fire Department are on standby right now this morning. They're waiting to deploy to hard-hit parts of the state. The department shared these photos on Twitter. Their urban search and rescue teams and swiftwater teams are stationed at the Police Fire Training Academy. And you can see they're keeping a very close eye on the storm. They're also sleeping on cots until they know where they will be deployed.
Some people are in shock at the rising waters that Florence left.
As many people were evacuating the Carolinas, one son came to town in order to help his mother. Eyewitness News anchor Kristen Lee is in the Breaking News Center with this story.
Well, this is what he and others are dealing with. Look at this neighborhood in Jacksonville. Water is creeping up on mailboxes and homes. Debris is floating in the street. You can actually see in this video what looks like a doghouse that was swept out of someone's yard. Joe Simmons' mom lives on this street. It's flooded. He drove down from Minnesota to check on his mother Thursday. Yesterday, he said the damage Florence left behind is the worst he's seen.
Since then, the past 5 or 6 years, every time a hurricane comes through, the water level it encroaches further up the street now.
In the same neighborhood, loved ones are taking extra precaution to get to family members trapped in flooded homes. This man was using a machete to inch his way to his brother's house. Why the machete? Well, neighbors say there are alligators in the water. That's adding danger to what's already a stressful situation in Jacksonville. Again, we're continuing to get new video in by the minute across North Carolina. We'll bring it to you throughout the morning.
That's incredible. Alligators in the water to be worried about. 6:36 is now your time. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of North Carolina is taking emergency steps for customers, including letting people delay paying premiums for 30 days, allowing early prescription refills, and they're also extending claim submission deadlines. They hope that all of this will keep people from missing critical health care needs.
Service members getting ready to deploy got a chance to decompress just a little last night. The USO served dinner to about 400 Coast Guardsmen and their families in South Charlotte. One captain we spoke with, who's a Charlotte native, was happy to be back in the Queen City.
Finally got an opportunity to sit still and reflect and be thankful that we're all here and that we're here together.
Well, they tell us after the weather eases up a bit, they will be deploying on search and rescue missions. An ongoing problem besides the water rescues is, of course, the roads.
And at 5:30, we spoke this morning live here on the air on Channel 9 with Jen Thompson with North Carolina's Department of Transportation. And she explained the process and also the manpower that they have to try to clear trees from the roads.
We have contracts that are in place called cut and shove contracts, which is essentially going out, cutting down the tree limbs and pushing them to the side of the road to get them open. We do have our crews on rotating 12-hour shifts starting today through the duration of the event.
Thompson said the department is also keeping a close eye on the I-77 construction in North Charlotte to avoid any flooding there. Now take a look at this rescue in Goldsboro. You can see 7 rescuers teamed up to help this woman and her dog. They were stuck in this car in the floodwaters. She was able to climb out of the vehicle and into that boat as the rescuers cautiously pulled that boat along there in the floodwaters, trying to get those 2 to safety.
Now to some breaking news in southeast Charlotte. A massive tree here blocking Margaret Wallace Road took out the power lines in this area. It came down around 3:30 this morning. The road is now closed between St. Peter's Lane and Whitfield Drive. Around 1,100 people are without power between Village Lake, Sam Newell, and Harris Boulevard. We did talk to a neighbor in the area who's concerned about this damage.
A little nervous because I never passed something like this, and this is going to be my first time, so a little scary, but hopefully everything will be all right.
Now stay with us. We're going to let you know as soon as that tree is removed and the power is restored.
We've seen rescues happen across the state already, and it could be several days of rescues that we'll be dealing with.
Natasha Chen shows us more of the dangers they face, the urgent messages from North and South Carolina governors as well.
Water is our main problem right now, and we know that floodwaters kill.
Florence is moving slowly, but floodwaters are rising fast. The storm is crawling over parts of the Carolinas, relentlessly dumping large amounts of water.
Our garage door didn't make it.
All that water, plus dangerous winds and powerful storm surge, are turning some towns into rushing rivers. Hundreds of people trapped in their homes had to be rescued, along with their pets.
We were out all night last night, actually even cutting holes in people's roofs, trying to remove them because the water level rose so high so quick.
Crews from several states, some as far away as California, have arrived in the Carolinas to assist in those water rescues.
It took us 51 hours to get here. We're ready for almost anything that comes our way.
The storm is being blamed for at least 5 deaths, and officials believe that number could rise when the floodwaters drop. Meanwhile, rain and storm surges are pushing water inland and preventing rivers from draining. And as Florence continues to hover over this area, flooding is worsening by the hour.
The problem is the combination of the ocean surge that we're getting, the storm surge from the sea, on top of the relentless rain that we're having. There's really nowhere for the river water to go.
In Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, I'm Jan Pomerantz.
6:40 now. Apple CEO Tim Cook has pledged $1 million for Florence victims. He posted this tweet yesterday, urging everyone in the Carolinas to stay safe. The money will go to the Red Cross. Let's check in now with meteorologist Keith Monday in Severe Weather Center 9, checking out the wind speeds.
These winds are howling out there. They've been easily gusting 30, 35 all morning. Higher gusts and the heavier downpours are going to show up in between these reporting stations. So I anticipate there will be gusts even higher that may not technically get reported. I've been seeing that show up on Live Early Warning Doppler 9. With the additional rains, the additional wind coming in, we've only had isolated power outages this morning. The power outage index potential shows more of the at least scattered as we head our way into this evening. I would not be surprised if those outages become even more widespread, especially in that southeast corner where more of the strong wind is going to interact with that heavy rain, causing down more of the power outages. Of course, rain is primary concern number one, even though it's not that widespread now. When it becomes more flooding concerns show up. In a few minutes, we'll talk about not just the minor short-term flooding this morning and how that will start to pick up, but the river flooding that could last a lot longer.
All right, Keith, thank you for that. Still to come ahead this morning, we continue to track Tropical Storm Florence.
And our team of reporters bringing you live pictures of the damage as the storm moves closer to Charlotte.
It is another rough morning here on the coast. I'm Mark Barber, live in the North Topsail Beach area. The damage we have already seen and the rising concerns for flooding.
I'm Glenn Counts on Providence Road West. The chances we have seen some people take with down power lines. That story's next.
6:44 is our time. Right now, Florence is still slamming the coast. 24 hours now, bringing heavy rain and winds there.
Getting hit hard. Our team coverage continues now in North Topsail Beach. We have Eyewitness News reporter Mark Barber in the thick of it, in the dark, looking at some of the damage. Mark.
And John, we're starting here with this wide shot because I want you to see just how much debris the wind has whipped up and dropped into this parking lot here. Now the power is out, so I'm standing here in the back with this flashlight to try to illuminate the top of this gas canopy that collapsed right here. You see how much metal, it's all twisted, all of these beams that landed right here in this parking lot. Now this parking lot, it might just look dark and scattered with debris, but that would be dangerously deceptive. Walk with me here in this direction, because you're going to start noticing it's not just dark, it's deep. We have got standing water here as we continue to get pounded with heavy wind and rain. Now what we have seen over the past 24 hours or so has been a big shift. The wind, which was brutal at first, well, that's now just coming in waves. The rain is what has been consistent, and it is what has been dangerous. As you can see, as you take a look at my feet here, it's starting to get deeper and deeper. When we were standing here in this parking lot yesterday afternoon, there were just a couple centimeters of standing water. Now we're talking at least 6 inches, and it is continuing to rise. We have taken a look at some of the coastal areas here with the rivers, and those rivers, they have white caps. Trees that once stood on dry ground, they are now all underwater. Of course, as we continue to get slammed with the rain this morning, the concern is that we will only see the flooding here increase. Guys, back to you.
I mean, that's frightening stuff there, being in the dark like that, so just be safe out there, Mark. We'll be getting some daylight here over the next hour or so.
Now we want to show you a massive tree that fell on a home in Myers Park. You know, these huge trees in this area. Look at this, ripped right from the roots, and the winds are going to take more of them down.
Absolutely. We've seen a lot of this already. It's one of multiple trees down across the area. We have Eyewitness News reporter Glenn Counts. He is live in Ballantyne now, and Providence Road West remains shut down at this hour, Glenn.
It does. As a matter of fact, there's a couple of problems that's being caused by this power line that's down here that you see here behind me. One, obviously, it's affected electricity to some of the homes in the area. And also, there's been quite a few cars, and I know it's 6 o'clock in the morning, but believe it or not, we've seen a number of people who've tried to go and drive down this street and have been affected. We could just roll some of that video that we have shot from earlier. And I can tell you that most of the people that we have seen have acted wisely and cautiously. They've approached this intersection. Once they get to the power lines there, they see that, they turn around and they come back. We've also seen that on the other side, but not everybody. I mean, we've seen some people basically just plow right on through that intersection, which probably not a very wise move, because Duke Energy would tell you that when you see a power line, you have to assume it's hot. And the lines is obviously stretching over on top of Marvin Road and then also down below. We've also seen the number of homes without power creep up. When we started here about an hour and a half ago, it was around 3,500. It's now close to 3,900. And so this is just the beginning, and hopefully it's not going to get a whole lot worse, but it looks like it's going to. Reporting live from Providence Road West, Glenn Counts, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
Crews in southwest Charlotte are trying to remove this tree. It came down this morning on Nations Ford Road near Archdale. It fell just before 5 a.m. southwest of I-77. Right now, police have one lane open, so drivers are able to get through.
Some breaking news into our newsroom this morning. State officials have now confirmed 6 deaths due to this storm. The latest 2 people in Carteret County. We also just got an update from Onslow County. They're seeing some of the worst of Florence's impacts this morning. Our emergency services director tells us they're actively conducting dozens of water rescues right now. As many as 300 more may need to be rescued because they're trapped in their homes. Storm surge completely washed away some roads, so it's getting hard to travel, and strong winds caused some homes to actually collapse. That gives you a glimpse of what is happening this morning, and we will be getting more information like this throughout the day. That's why we're going to stay on the air with you.
And it is just unbelievable what this storm, which yesterday was just a Category 1, and you think, Category 1? Yeah. Look at the devastation.
And it's that rain. That rain is the real issue, and that is what's starting to push into our area. Let's get to meteorologist Keith Monday.
That's the big misnomer with these things. We all get caught up in the number. We all do it. We all think, wow, Category 4 and then down to 1. You're like, okay, but you can't let your guard down on this thing. We've already had multiple trees down in Charlotte, and this is just getting started. I fear we're going to have dozens of trees down in spots because of these strong winds coming in. Steadiest rain start up now into Concord, moving up I-85 into Kannapolis there as well, spreads into Mount Pleasant. We've seen rain all morning now for Albemarle, southward into Mint Hill. The heaviest is between Hickory Grove and Planters Ridge here as you head out on Albemarle Road. Really some very steady rains and some stronger wind gusts at times. For now, wind speeds are only showing up on live early warning Doppler 9 about 20-25, but that's just the immediate sample we're looking at now. These gusts come and go, so we could have gusts still close to 35 to 40 miles per hour, and they make it even stronger as the day goes on. Rain spreads south through Monroe to Unionville, east down 74 through Wadesboro. We already have some spots where some high water will start to show up first in these eastern counties as flood advisories have already been put in place as the anticipation of some of that heavier rain coming back in. And of course the wind down south into Union County. Look at this, winds gusting at times over 40 miles per hour. The reason you see the color differences, red is wind that's flowing away from the radar, green is towards. So thankfully it's all one direction. We don't have any tornado risk out there yet this morning, but that may show up as more of these bands just keep filling in. Look what happens through the afternoon here. We just keep getting piled on with the rain over and over and over through the night tonight, this last well into tomorrow morning. As we get on the northeast edge of this storm, those are the bands where spin-up tornadoes can show up very quickly. So we'll deal with that threat into tomorrow morning on top of all the rain that's going to come in along with it, as rain totals will start to add up fast this afternoon, spreading in at least 6 to 8 inches of rain or more. Some spots, I'd say from Charlotte to the east, are going to start to get into that 10+ range. Even in the city, it's possible we could hit that mark. Once we do, more flooding concerns, but this could be a long flooding event, especially with the rivers. Meteorologist Jacqueline Shear is looking over the river forecast, which does not look good for the area.
It doesn't really for most of the state of North Carolina. We're looking at some impacts here. Here's a look at some of those gauges. You see these little dots on your screen here. The purple is forecast to reach major flood stage, the red moderate flood stage, and minor flood stage even with those tan marks. Taking things a little bit more locally though, the South Fork is one of those rivers expected to reach minor flood stage. Right now it's just over 2.5 feet, but it reaches flood stage, major flood stage at 15.5 feet. Forecast to get to 15.6, so just over that major flood stage. And that could have some big impacts starting by about Monday, lasting all the way through the week.
So even though our weather does calm as we head into next week, looks really calm by the middle to end of next week. So that's good news. This river flooding threat is going to continue. It's not just some of the smaller rivers out there, of course, the Catawba River, while it is managed by Duke Energy with all the rivers and lakes out there, eventually too much water is going to get in there and we are going to have more flooding concerns. I mean, they're going to do the best they can to manage that water, but eventually you just get too much and the water has nowhere else to go.
You try to make room, but...
Exactly.
All right, Keith, thanks. Tropical Storm Florence already bringing down trees and power lines throughout our area. The worst is on the way. We're going to walk you through some of the damage right now using our storm cam to respond to new problems as they arise. .55 right now. The rain keeps on falling and flooding is getting worse.
Polo Sandoval was in Lumberton, North Carolina. That's where residents showed a remarkable sign of unity, trying to protect their community.
Even after the rain stops and Florence eventually dissipates, the flooding threat will remain for the communities inland throughout the Carolinas, including here in Lumberton, North Carolina, where on Friday we witnessed something truly incredible where neighbors came together to try to defend their community against potential flooding from Florence. As we saw, strangers came together filling sandbags, creating a barrier under an overpass along Interstate 95. You see that location had been identified as a problem spot when Hurricane Matthew swept through the region 2 years ago. That is when water essentially flooded much of the community, particularly on the west side of the city. So this time, neighbors determined not to let that happen again. An all call issued on social media for people to come together to join city workers to create this barrier here. Now they are with their families waiting for the worst to be over in terms of the weather, but the potential flooding threat will remain. The forecast calling for some of the rivers and streams in the region to reach a major flood stage in the coming days. Paulo Sandoval, CNN, Lumberton, North Carolina.
You know, Lumberton got hit hard by Hurricane Matthew. Right. And they're seeing this again.
There's people there that haven't really fully recovered from that storm 2 years later, and now this could end up being worse than what we saw with Matthew. And the flood concerns here, while again they're just getting started, are going to really grow as we head through the day. The storm has only moved 101 miles in 24 hours just about. I mean, this is really crawling off to the west, which means more heavy rain threats will linger here for a very long stretch through the weekend.
All right, Keith, thank you so much. But our coverage is not over. We're going to continue. Another new hour is coming up.
Yeah, stay with us.